everybody. My name is Dr. Maggie Baker. I'm trained as a psychologist and also as a financial therapist. And I'm here to help you deal with your money issues. Everybody has money issues. It's whether you are aware of them or not. And there is help. There's a way to become a money master. And that's a way of enjoying the money you have and not worrying about the money that you don't have. The hoarder. Yeah, holiday season is not the favorite season for the hoarder because all it does is bring out their fear and their sense of loss. So number one, they're going to lose because they have to spend money on somebody. And it's not the other person that's the problem. It's their own thinking about and their being in the relationship with money that they are, where it's so fear-based. So what is their budget going to be? It's going to be on the low side. And how's that going to go over with people that you really care about? So the fear really takes over, and what I would wish for them is to understand that, again, expression of gratitude can often come through giving something of oneself or in token as a present to somebody because you love them and care about them. And you don't want the message to be, I'm so stingy I can't even on the holidays give you something. And unfortunately, that's what registers with people who are in the receiving end of somebody who's a real hoarder. So as I think about it, probably the holidays are the most difficult for a hoarder for those reasons, because the fear just takes over, and the holidays are really ramping up that fear, and that fear takes over and paralyzes their better judgment. So in that sense, they're reacting, but they're reacting by pulling back, not really responding to the situation as they might wish in their heart, because they're locked into that narrative, and they probably don't like being in a state of fear so much. But if loss is such a great thing for them, then we need to understand them at holidays. I think that's what I would say. And understand how locked in they are to behavior that is probably pretty compulsive by the time they're adults. There are so many external cues to spend and get excited that it's very, very difficult for somebody who gets their satisfaction doing that. And restraint is not their strong suit. What do you really want to convey to the person you're buying for? And what would they most appreciate? And how can you convey your excitement that is in the purchasing to them? You know, maybe writing something about them, maybe offering an experience of going on a weekend together somewhere, something where you share yourself and your enthusiasm for them and for the relationship. As the holidays come, the Worrier is going to have a pretty good shot at it to have a good time, because they're going to be planning, and they'll be thinking, oh, okay, let me strategize and plan, and that will make me probably worry less, and they'll end up with a plan, and they can execute the plan. And it may be a little more focused on the plan rather than the person, but they're in a reasonably good position to really enjoy the holidays because they've maintained control. And this control makes them feel safe and less vulnerable to whatever they might be vulnerable to. Probably vulnerability would be to be taken by surprise or something. So they can really kind of relax and enjoy it because they do have a plan. And they can think about the other person, because all these types, despite their different ways of getting satisfaction, all want to connect to other people. They all have a heart, and they all want to be appreciated themselves. So all these other human factors aside from their money types plays into how they're really going to react. So I'm trying to be very distinctive about what characteristics go with a particular type, but don't forget that we're all human, so there are other things that come in the wash that may modify the statements that I've made about each particular type. The Amasser is the type of person who is probably making a budget, saying, okay, this is how much I'm allotting to my holiday fund, and I'm going to worry about how I'm going to portion that money out. And then that kind of takes them off. What's the point of the holiday in the first place? And what I would recommend to them is, in a way, the same recipe, is to think about the person that you're buying for and what they would appreciate, and get that in focus, and then look at your budget. But don't look at your budget first. And then try to get into the enthusiasm of what this person is going to feel like when you give them that, rather than saying, I just spent the amount of money that I wanted to, end of story. If I'm a real avoider, why don't we just forget Christmas and go to Easter and just not worry about all this money stuff? Because then I'd have to make a decision. And if I have to make a decision, that means I'm getting into the arena of money, and I feel very ambivalent about money. I don't even know how I feel about it, or what do you mean I have a relationship with money? Well, everybody has a relationship with money because it's something that's needed and used and has all kinds of emotions and attitudes and beliefs attached to it. So yes, you do have a relationship with money, but perhaps you're unaware of it. So I think for an avoider, that's the person who probably procrastinates buying anything because they don't want to muddle with the money. So they'll wait to the very last minute, and then they'll run to the store and get stuff for people because they also want to be a part of the celebration and be connected. But they just don't want to have to think about money. And that way, the procrastination has enough force that it pushes them to get involved. But it's a way of not taking full accountability and responsibility for the decisions that you're making because you are kind of pressured into it. Shifting out of having to deal with money, not because they're worried or not because they're ambivalent about it, but they're just moralistic about it, and they don't want to see how much money gets spent on these presents, not because they couldn't cover it, but just because they're spending money. They're going to get very practical, like, oh, I'll get her a sweater, or I'll get her a blouse or a dress or something like that, because it will be useful and not wasteful and up to their moral standard for a present, so they can maintain their sense of value about the should, but at the same time allow either somebody in the family, or if they can handle it, to spend money themselves for very, very different reasons from a hoarder. There's not much fear there. It's replaced by morality. Well, I'd have to talk to the high roller before the party started, because if not, it would be very, very hard to restrain a high roller. Now, they're not going to worry about spending $50 on a present, but they are going to want to make the holiday special in some way, maybe special to the family. So what do they think about? Oh, why don't we go on a cruise? Why don't we go on a holiday? I'm young, I'm still going to be earning money. Who cares? We're just going to have one heck of a time. And this particular cruise has a casino. And wouldn't that be fun to take everybody to the casino, and we could just roll those dice and see what happens? What I'd say to a person like that is, whew, holidays are going to be tough for you, because what I'm going to say you're not going to like, because it's going to sound like a real downer. But if you don't want to have January regrets, it would be a good idea to kind of, again, focus on what do you think the other person would want from you, and what would they appreciate. And if you're a high roller, you know, you probably have a level of intensity that people like. So share your intensity with them. Offer to go on a trip with them. Very, very much the same kind of thing in trying to get, no matter what type you are, getting you to think about the other person and what you're trying to get them to appreciate about you, and also what you appreciate about them. Being in a very materialistic society, no matter what type you are, you get away from that message. And what I try to do is bring people back to it so they can really enliven their own life with getting more and more connected in an authentic and real way to the people they love and care about.